Gasparini, and welcome to this segment of Penn Voice. I'm joined today by Bryan Neider, who is the CEO of Gatepath. Bryan, welcome again.
Thanks, Danny. Good to see you again.
I think last time we had you on the program, you had just started as CEO at Gatepath.
Yep.
So just for a few viewers who may not know what the work that Gatepath does do, please give us just a quick scenario of what your mission is, and then we're going to jump into some real critical issues.
Sure. Our mission is supporting children and adults with developmental disabilities through therapeutic services to preschools, adult programs, including employment, site-based and community programs. We have about 200 employees. We're 99 years young, so we've been a pillar of San Mateo County community for a long time. Our services span North County, Daly City, Coastside, East Palo Alto, and many points in between.
So we're going to jump right into,
Sure.
So as an organization that's been in existence for 99 years, helping children and adults with developmental disabilities, your program has definitely evolved over the last 99 years as our understanding of individuals with disabilities, developmental disabilities, programming has changed, et cetera.
Yes.
I think what's the most dramatic change today is the funding.
It certainly has an impact on everything we offer.
So, and we're going to talk today about the state and the state budget and how a very important piece of how you are funded as an organization in order to deliver services that continue to grow and get more sophisticated and get better with time.
Yes.
But the funding is decreasing. That's the state budget. So give us just a little hint of what's been happening.
So a little bit of background about California funding. California funds roughly 50 cents of every dollar that goes into providing developmental disability service providers. The other half is matched by the federal government. Over the years, the state funding for programs have decreased. Roughly $1 billion have been taken out of the system going back to the Great Recession. The state has not closed that gap as costs of living have gone up.
Right.
The state commissioned a rate study that went on for the better part of a year to find out kind of where the funding was. The state's own report that came back in March showed a $1.8 billion gap in funding for the developmental disability services sector. California ranks 50th out of all 50 states in per capita funding. And you add to that the cost of living in the Bay Area, it's an incredible squeeze on all providers, not just Gatepath, but everyone, to be able to hire, train, and retain great staff to provide new, innovative, and inclusive programs. So it puts a lot of pressure on us. We've had to be very creative to how to manage that. We've been working with other associations across the state to inform and help educate the new administration with Governor Gavin Newsom on the challenges that we have. The original budget proposal had very modest increases for a very few selected service areas that providers offer. They were also going to insist on a furlough day. They did not provide legislation to cover for their own minimum wage laws. They don't account for living wage ordinances that service providers had to deal with. Fortunately, we have some great elected officials here in San Mateo County. Kevin Mullen's office, and Kevin has been fantastic, along with Jerry Hill, in helping advocate and push some changes to the original budget. Mark Berman has been supportive, so we're blessed to be where we are in California with such strong support for the developmental disabilities community. They were able to help, along with other legislators across the state, to improve the original budget. It is still far short of the needs that we all have. Right. It is a step in the right direction, but again, it really is putting enormous pressure on every provider to provide high quality services and being able to hire and retain staff.
I know one of the things you and I wanted to do today was just to inform the general public that this gap does exist. So if anybody viewing this program knows Assemblymember Mullen or Senator Hill or Assemblymember Berman, please give them our support in readjusting this budget.
And thank them for their support. They've been great.
But what does it mean, for example? Let's just bring this back to Gatepath. So are you talking 20% of your budget? Are you talking 10% of your budget? Are you talking a greater percent? Because that's an awful lot of dollars have to recover by the general public, because I know you do receive donations by individuals, companies, foundations. and therefore either that or offset your expenses. So
yes.
Tell us what's happening there.
Sure. So around 40% of our budget is funded by the state, with about 15% being funded by donors and foundations. And that donor foundation base generally covers the programs that aren't adequately funded by the state.
Right.
So that's, if you want to call that 50+%
right.
of our entire budget, is related in some form or another to the funding provided by the state of California or the inadequate funding by the state. We have a very generous and supportive donor base, but we could not offer many of our adult-related programs if it wasn't for the community foundations and very generous donors.
Right.
The state doesn't make it possible.
Right, and now with this potential, this looming, an additional state gap, because you've been defunded, if you will, a bit every year.
Yes, we've been having to work through it for the last decade.
Right.
Yep.
So, and now with this next threat, should it happen to the extent that is first proposed, your only alternative is to make it up through either cutting programs, figuring out how to do more with
money,
less expenses.
How to do more, exactly, all that.
So, and you do have some of those things in place. Tell us about that.
First of all, that's a great question, kind of, how do we deal with the situation that we're facing? And talking to our staff, going back to 2016, when the state budget at that time was offering no increase at all, we said, listen, we're not going to be victims. We're going to take our future into our own hands. We're going to be very innovative and creative in finding ways to continue to invest in our team and continue to invest in our programs and drive that forward. And we're going to be more aggressive in advocacy for the needs of our service sector and the folks that we serve.
Right.
So we got more aggressive in recruiting interns, new college hires, finding ways to collaborate with NDNU and other local colleges, the community colleges, CSM and others, on how do we work with them, with students, to be able to help support program, maybe have paid internships. So finding different ways to improve our pipeline. In addition, we've been working to improve our communication and sharing our needs with foundations. This last year, we had a wonderful foundation from the Correct Foundation, a grant from the Correct Foundation to help support some educational programs for young adults. So we've been doing more aggressive things to fill in these gaps and talking about a story of positive outcomes and things that we think are innovative in improving lives of the folks that we serve. I think that's always a better story than talking about doom and gloom. But I will tell you, our passion has been dialed up to educate the state and the general public about California should be ashamed to be 50th out of all 50 states in funding for the developmental disabilities community. I can't imagine any other constituency in the state that would tolerate that kind of financial funding service lack of support. It's shocking to me that this continues to go on for a decade.
And I don't think any of us have the answer. And I think one of the things that we do have to ask is our governor and our state legislature is what is the answer?
Yep.
And why?
Yep.
You have done something also very unique, and that is considered a merger with another organization that provides like services in a different county. So tell us about that.
Sure.
And that's also helping with your bottom line.
So going back to 2016, one of the things we looked at is, how can we leverage the resources we have to put more of our limited budgets into programs and staff? And one way to do that is via mergers. And so going back to roughly 2016, 17, we started the groundwork and laying a foundation to make that possible. We had some very generous donations and support from the board to invest in infrastructure, improving processes, things that we could leverage with the future merger. We didn't know when it would happen or if it would happen.
Right.
And then lo and behold, we had a chance to work with a wonderful organization in Palo Alto named Abilities United. Great leadership and staff there, similar missions. And so part of the merger is sort of our whole philosophy around better together. So we're going to leverage all of that infrastructure, all of the administrative functions, marketing, development, have one group that does it for both teams. And that allows us to put a lot of that resource into improving staff salaries, investing in program design and offerings for adults and children that we serve. So that's been a cornerstone of being able to make that happen.
Well, Bryan, I want to thank you. We're already out of time, but
that was fast.
It was. It is such a fast 10 minutes, and I just want to make sure that we thank you,
Absolutely.
your team, your staff, your families, your youth, and your adults within your organization, because you deliver such a critical service for our community. And you're in that rock and a hard place where you're going to continue to provide the most critical and profoundly unbelievable service.
Blessed to have a great team and great donors and a great community we live in that makes it all possible.
Yeah, and yet the state continues to cut your budget, but I know you'll deliver.
They will see the light.
Awesome. Yes. And well, thanks all of you for watching us on Penn Voice, and we'll see you next time.